last night to get some rest, some reconsideration, and will he bring it today?
And they're off as the games are underway. I expect this championship day to be one of upsets. I strongly feel that the players who are doing badly, Shaq, Fabi, and Magnus, are going to come back strongly.
And let's get into the game, as we've seen
exactly.
a Sicilian, but not a dragon, as he did get crushed in that.
And not a Sveshnikov either, not an open D4.
And then Maxime, instead of going
C3.
for those lines, decided to play the C3 Sicilian.
Right.
Thinking that there's a lot of lines you can't play against a C3 Sicilian when you've already committed your knight to C6.
By the way, queen takes D6. I've actually been a bigger proponent of E7, E6 in that position to be able to recapture with the bishop.
Yeah, let's bring it up. Let's try to bring up your board as well.
Queen takes D6 for Magnus is the point. The point was his last move, to be able to play bishop to E6 and resolve this bishop issue immediately. And it looks like Maxime is not quite familiar with this idea to look at the board and finally play the move D4.
Exactly.
Bishop issue. Could we just shorten that to bishoes? Yes. Is that a thing?
A bishop?
I mean, you have them in the French press.
I'm resolving my bishop. How about you? Yeah, I like it. I like it. Bishop, I'll go with that. Bishop E6. That is definitely off the beaten path. I don't know if it's a novelty. I'll simply say I am not familiar with it at all. And I do know these C3 Sicilians because, well, I did some work on them. But okay,
wow.
MVL said D4.
Look at this. A pawn sack immediately.
Well, he's played.
What do you mean? C takes D4?
And then he played knight A3.
And then it.
Then he played knight A3. I got you.
And now
yes.
we got
well,
bishop.
this is very standard stuff, though. Knight B5 is bishop takes B3, queen takes B3.
Well, he took with the pawn, though.
He took with the pawn. I apologize. Oh, man, now I got it all wrong. I shouldn't be doing this stuff. He went knight A3, bishop takes B3, and he took with the pawn. Okay. So knight B5 is, of course, White's big idea.
The engine's giving DC3 as the only way to equalize even in this position. It's the main way, at least, to get some position. And apparently we've seen this a number of times, 66 games.
In our database,
Until A6 was played, knight B5 not on tap because the rook on A8 is defended by the knight on B6. So what famous grandmaster said a knight on B6 is always bad?
Wasn't me.
Wasn't you? Right now it's working. It's doing something.
It's defending C4, but A7, A6. We were, Maurice was just explaining that D4 takes C3 was the engine's choice,
but
considering that the only way to equalize. A7, A6
is the main move that's been played, though, in the past.
Okay.
And now knight takes D4 played.
There's some hesitancy on their part, though. I think trying to maybe just remember even the opening. No, knight takes Bishop E6 was played after knight takes D4.
Bishop E3, yeah.
Bishop E3,
excuse me. I apologize.
Keeping it going, keeping the richness going in this position.
Yeah.
And clearly Magnus is not fully familiar with the nuances here as he is spending some time. We don't see the clock times right now for some reason, but he's spending some time trying to work out these nuances.
4:13 and 3:09.
That's a lot. That's a lot just coming right out of the opening, and a minute down already by Magnus.
Now, what's the idea here? If we retreat our knight to F5 after queen D6,
he did, and there will be a trade.
Knight D6, bishop takes B6.
That's right.
Is this a formidable advantage for White? Yeah.
Formidable, no, but pleasant, certainly. I mean, the queenside majority at this exact moment has more influence on the game than the kingside majority. And by the way, the bishop on B6, many Sicilians, that's a really annoying piece to have to deal with. White is going to obviously bring his rook to the open D file and pressure D file, looking at an opportunity to play knight C4 again.
Rook C6 played, by the way.
You want to get rid of this bishop because this bishop on B6 was eyeballing the D8 square. Knight C4 was a threat that would have hurt.
The main problem right now, though, for Black is that he's down so many moves. He's got to play E6, he's got to play bishop E7, and then he's got a castle. That's 3 moves. White's going to get 3 moves. Well, I guess it's 2 because he'll play his third move will be rook to d1. So White will play 3 moves. What can he do? What can he do to make use of the lead in development? And that's what MVL is looking at right now. He knows he doesn't want to play less incisively, and he's played bishop retreating to e3. And now we're going to expect to see e6, bishop e7. The problem, I think, what MVL is going for is he wants to disrupt this knight on d6 with bishop f4 eventually. So it's going to be rook d3, rook d1, bishop to f4, and will he have anything crashing on that d7 square? That's what Magnus is worried about, as the pressure is going to increase dramatically on that knight on d6, and he has to check to see if that's going to be a problem. Even that's knight c4 if you're not careful about the back rank.
I was going to say, I like rook d3, rook d1 doubling up. I also like the immediate bishop f4. The idea is to capture on d6 and then play knight c4.
E5 played.
e5.
Man, well, that's a little scary. That looks a little bit scary.
D5 is very attractive suddenly.
Yeah, he gave him a full tempo to play this rook d5 move.
Exactly.
I don't think this move was a good move.
No, I think he's asking too much of his
and there it is, a
position.
full tempo on his pawn, and he has to waste a tempi playing this f6 move and then doubling rooks. And this is what we're talking about now. White's ready to play an attacking move on that knight.
Bishop c5, yeah.
Bishop c5 or knight c4?
Bishop c5.
Okay,
Yes.
let's take a look
Bishop
at
c5 looks scary, in fact.
Because I'm afraid, like with knight c4, you could take maybe. Whereas
No, but
now,
this, what do you do? There's a rook crashing on d7.
Yep.
Exactly. I mean, I'd have to maybe play knight f5, but
That won't matter.
no,
The
that's
rook
not
is
gonna help
still
because-
going to end up on
I'm
that.
forced to take with the king because otherwise I lose my rook on h8.
Did he just play
Exactly.
king f7?
Whoa, 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 whoa.
So instead,
So doubles, he played king f7.
In
How
order-
does this resolve the
instead
issue?
of bishop e7.
Yeah. King f7.
This doesn't. This
Well, I think his idea, and it was a good one, is to play king e6, and just to maintain this knight on d6. So bishop c5, king e6, or knight
Nice
c4,
idea.
king e6.
But here's this knight c2 move by Magnus, introducing a new
By
threat.
MVL.
By MVL, sorry. Knight b4.
A new threat. Ooh,
Yes.
and that's very unpleasant. Well, let's see how,
So-
after king e6 to defend the knight.
So knight b4, shutting your rook out of the defensive function that it's been so adept at, and I'm trying to wonder. I wonder if I can play something like f4 here.
By the way, Levon is getting destroyed by Karyakin
There
right
it
now.
is, by the way. Knight c2, king e6, f4 without inserting knight b4.
Okay, just
So
f4
he
immediately.
played that right away, holding the other move in reserve, and now bishop e7 played.
Yeah.
So the problem with the idea of like playing knight before and then distracting you with f5 is you can still take with a knight.
Right?
Yeah. So it seems like everything's covered up tactically for the moment. So Maxime's played d takes e5, f takes e5 on the board.
That was g4 was another move that could have been played instead of capturing, creating that isolated pawn. Right now, it looks very concrete, but he doesn't seem to be able to identify anything specific in the position. As Magnus has defended very well, and MVL has not proven that lead in development advantage. And without that g4 move, it looks like knight f5 right now is playable.
Well, knight e4 was Magnus's choice, and gosh, I love that g4 move. But trying to kick Magnus's king out of the box. But now it looks like Magnus is consolidated. Yes. What do you think?
Yes, it looks like he's played great defense.
I'm really not happy with the move c4 at all. I think he should have put the knight on b4. Frankly, with this move knight e4, a lot of the dangers that existed in Magnus's position have basically disappeared. Knight f6 is going to cover the d7 square. There's bishop c5, and as well as simply rook d6 trading. To think that this knight could have come to b4 and to d3 with the tempo, now MVL is looking to play either knight f3 or knight d3 to attack the pawn on e5. And the worst is definitely past. I still prefer white, but that king on e6 could one day actually turn out to be advantageous for black. So if we imagine knight f3, rook takes d5, rook takes d5, bishop d6, for example, I think we're closing in towards a draw, but, well...
Draw. I think we're
Whoa.
We're
What
still
just-
going. He played knight
what
d3,
just
and he
happened?
traded on d5, and then played king to d6, b4.
Well, it's very surprising that MVL would want to artificially isolate his pawn on d5. Okay, he does have ideas of bishop c5 check as well as knight c5, but that was a confounding
Rook b8
sequence.
just played.
Rook b8.
Not just his pawn on d5, by the way, but his double pawns on b2 and b4. Additional weaknesses as well. Magnus has fully consolidated and is now trying to figure out if he could maybe take over the game in some kind of way. Looks, he wants to play b6. It seems a bit odd. Bishop to b6, shutting down any such idea.
Okay, I thought he was angling for knight c5. Try gaining knight c5 at the right moment there. But knight c5 immediately, rook b8 was a good idea to defend the pawn on b7. Knight.
Bishop d8 played. You got it on your board.
Uh-huh.
And now they're down under a minute. We're in critical zone right now as MVL desperate to keep his lead. It looks like Levon will lose. So MVL with a little edge on the clock, and now rook
e1.
e1. It
After
seems
the trades.
king d5 is impossible. What's the problem? What's the trick? There's always a trick. Oh, knight f4 check. No, that doesn't work. Wait, does knight f4 check? Oh, you can move and then take the knight on f4 at the end.
So king takes d5, knight f4 check, king c6.
Right.
Rook takes e4, f takes e4, and we're in a rook and pawn ending.
But black's like better, right?
But black is better. His
Yeah,
king is definitely more active.
And we're ready to go like activate our rook.
Yep.
Oh, and hold
So-
on.
Oh, wait, there's a
knight
96 right now that's playable.
Knight e6, rook d6.
Yeah, and then he's fine.
And that's a
And
better
knight e6, rook
version,
d6.
Oh, but then he can take on g7 maybe.
Exactly. So you're not completely in a rook and pawn end game. It's a rook and knight.
And Magnus is hesitating with only 13 seconds left on his clock as MVL has
Yeah,
now
has-
equalized the position. That rook on b4 though,
I don't
defending
know
the
if he's
knight
equalized
and
the
hitting the
position. I
pawn.
still
So,
like
so it looks like there's
Black's
still some
position.
issues.
Yeah. No, it still looks to me like Magnus is for choice here.
Yes, it looks
Again,
as
the
though he's
king
going
on
to take on
G1.
b4.
If the king were on a nicer square, f3 for example.
And Ding Loren has lost. Are all of the leaders going to lose, guys? This tournament's
Wow.
going to be wide open.
Ooh, but G4 blundered.
Isn't that a free pawn?
Yes,
Another
it
one.
is.
He
Oh no, there is E5.
no, but still, this is a oh, he just took that pawn.
Oh, a draw is almost inevitable.
Really?
now.
He's got to pass
Yeah.
B pawn. You don't think that's not
Oh,
that's
excuse me.
enough?
And it's a 14-second
There's
game.
still there's
Oh, you didn't
still
see
a
the
pawn
pawn.
on
Oh,
H7.
okay.
I thought it was going to be, 1 and 1.
A little bit of a
No.
strange move by Magnus, that last move.
Okay.
Now he's trying to figure out how to get his B pawn rolling, and he just played B6. And now his H7 is almost certain to drop.
But why did he play B6 and not, for example, B5?
No,
Yeah,
what's
this
going
is
on?
unusual.
it
Now his
knight
pawns-
F6?
Okay.
No.
No, Magnus now bailing out, trying to. But
H5.
there goes MVL with his H pawn. Suddenly it's MVL whose pawn is a bit more dangerous at the moment.
What on
That's
earth is
crazy.
going on? Levon did lose,
By the way, update. Yeah.
as did Ding Loren.
Oh my goodness, but what a terrible move, knight D5. Oh no. Oh, it is right. Okay. I thought there was a fork in the position. I'm seeing the position completely
You're seeing
from
the-
There's
the
some
side.
and now
There's
just
some
going
H5.
for the draw, just going for the
Both
draw. These
players.
players right now, and now down to nothing left. King on king, basically on the board.
Smiles.
Well,
What a
Maxime,
strange ending there.
Maxime might not